We did a 2-hour guild event. So we sold a bunch of jewelry that Gary Douglas had sourced and purchased to raise money for El Lagar. So I was on that doing sales and, setting up the dock for all the people buying beautiful jewelry. So I've basically, it's 11 a.m. here. I've had minimal sleep. We've been on CF training and raised a whole bunch of money for El Lagar. So how fitting. I'm on here to talk to you guys about money. And I know they set this up in the Road to CF group to talk about some of our tools that we use. Sorry, I'm getting distracted by the comments. And if you guys have any questions, please post them in the comments. I love this new format for Facebook Lives. It's really easy. So yeah, so for certified facilitators to come on and talk to you guys about some of the tools we use when it comes to money and finances and revenue and all that sort of stuff. So the Guild Show was amazing. And yes, what would it take to have a certified facilitator training in real life? But I've got to tell you guys, please, if you're ready, choose the online version. It has been epic. The way that they've got the class set up with Gary, Dane, Brennan, and Simone facilitating, and shout outs to Simone Millicis because she's facilitating from here in Australia. So, like I said, we start at midnight 30 and she facilitates from about 12:30 a.m. until about 3:30 a.m. So she's basically my hero. And what I wanted to do my Facebook Live about was like your financial awareness and your ask. So for me, I love the tools of access consciousness, especially around money. They've changed and, around everything. But with money, there's such a difference with how Gary, Simone, Brendan, Dane, how the tools of access talk about money and finances and wealth and the CF training has been a lot about that as well. I'm sorry, my puppy is being very naughty and chewing on something that she shouldn't be. So I remember when I first came across Access, I think some of the money tools were probably some of the last ones that I was willing to kind of really commit to and dive into. But as soon as I started choosing more access and more consciousness, the thing I noticed was that my money changed. And I don't know about you guys, but as a kid, I remember having such a capacity with money. Like, I remember one day swimming in the ocean and this wallet floated past and it had, I don't know, I was very young. I was probably only under 10 years old. And I grabbed this wallet and like took it to my parents and it had about $500 cash in it. So we returned it to the guy and he gave me a reward. I remember once being very young as well and walking through the supermarket and just finding this wad of money on the ground. And I remember being in like not long after leaving home and, being independent financially and checking my bank account and money would just show up in my bank with no reason. I wasn't owed the money. So I guess for me, and I would ask you guys as well, like, where did you already have a capacity with money that you had as a child and somewhere um, dismissed, started ignoring, wrote it off because it didn't fit this reality with money? And everything that is, I love that I can poke and pot in this group as well because you've all done access and you all know what the clearing statement is. So everywhere that we have cut off and discounted our total capacity with finances and money that we came in to this lifetime with, let's destroy and uncreate all of that. Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pod, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. So Nancy said, I still have some issues with money and insecurities. So my question, Nancy, would be, is that yours? And everywhere that we're buying other people's financial realities as our own, let's destroy and uncreate all of that as well. Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pod, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. Because I know for myself, I grew up in a household that didn't really have, I don't know, I'm going to find it very hard to find words during this Facebook Live. So again, I apologize. Functioning here on about 4 hours sleep and a CF training and a guild show. I didn't grow up in a household where we were taught about money, and we actually grew up very poor. Like, I would say we were very much below the average income for I don't know, a family here in Australia, whatever that is, not to make it anything, but I grew up in a house where we weren't educated about money. The education I got about money was watching people struggle with it and still knowing like I could create money on the ground or floating past me in the ocean. So everywhere that you guys were brought up or you've been around people that have a financial reality that actually isn't yours but you're buying it as yours. Let's all just destroy and uncreate that and start asking for whatever our reality is with money to start showing up. Right and wrong, good and bad, POC and POD, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. But what I really wanted to talk to you guys about on this Facebook Live is the, what did I call it? Financial awareness. I think that's what I said. Financial awareness. And basically, the way I love the Access tools is because you can combine it with everything. Like it just makes everything better. So it's not like to be like, I use Access tools. I never have to know, where my money's coming from or how much money I earn. For me, to get to my ask, and your ask is that place where you ask the universe for something greater to show up. But for me, I want my ask to be very congruent with what I know is possible. So for you to be like, oh, my ask is, to earn, to generate, to make $1 million this year. Is that ask actually congruent with what you truly believe to be possible for you? So everywhere that we think using the Access tools is a bypassing of doing, some of the work, some of the things that are actually going to give us more clarity and more awareness of our financial situation and our financial reality. Let's destroy and uncreate all of that as well. Right and wrong, good and bad, POC and POD, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. So what I do is a couple of tools that I wanted to give to you guys. Number one, I put aside a few hours every week to have as my, I put it in my calendar every week. Let me see what I call it. I think I just call it Sarah's Finances, Sarah's Finance Time. And every week I endeavor to stick to that. Sometimes it might be an hour, sometimes it might be a little bit more. That time for me to be with my finances and really look at the week, what income I had, what expenses I had, and to really have this sense of where my money is. And then the second tool that I love to do is I have a Google Doc. So you can use whatever works for you, an Excel spreadsheet, a piece of paper, but somewhere where you can keep track of things a little bit. And for me, I get a little OCD with it. So mine's quite detailed, but you guys do whatever works for you. And on that document, I have some tabs. So one of them's my income, and on there I list everything that I've made, either through working for the different parts of Access Consciousness I work for, also my business and what my business has brought in through facilitating. I also do some personal training type stuff, and keep track of everything that I'm earning. So that's my income. Like that gives me that. Sorry, I'm getting distracted by the comments again. That gives me the awareness of what my current financial situation is, my financial reality, my income, where I'm at. And then I also track what it costs to live my life. I don't call it expenses because for me, an expense is something that you do in exchange for something else. I call it what it costs to live my life because my life is my life. Like there's certain things on there that I like to spend money on that maybe other people might not. And this is part of what makes up my financial reality. So on there might be the fact that every week or 2 weeks, I buy fresh lilies to have in my house. It might include the fact that I have a horse that I pay. Actually, I have 3 horses that I pay agistment for where they live. My dogs, the amount of body work that I love. So the gym membership, massages, my hair, my beauty, all that sort of stuff. So somewhere where I can track what it costs to live this life, my life. And then basically what I do there is I also include my 10% account, any past expenses I have, so paying off like old debts, credit card debts or something like that to have track of all of that. And then basically what that gives me is an overall sense of like, okay, so my income is this, like the cost to live my life is this, and then from there, every few months or so, I revisit my ask. So I have another little tab on my doc and it's called My Ask. And on there, I have just like a brief, income, what it costs to live, anything else I want to put on there to have like an overall. And then I sit there and I start asking some questions of like, okay, so if this was the past 3 months, what do I want to ask for in the next 3 months, the next 12 months, the next 5 years? And I'll usually go to a few places and I write some stuff down there about what my ask is in that time. And then I like to save that and go back and revisit it and really blow myself away with how often what I ask for shows up. And more often than not, it shows up as something greater. So I remember, yeah, Susanna said, she freaked out. I freaked out when I see what's going on my financials. So, what is freak out for you when it comes to money? And what is freak out for you when it comes to being aware of your finances? Like, where would we rather be the cartoon of I think it's an emu or something, and it's got its head buried in the sand, like its whole body is sticking out, but its head's buried in the sand. It's like, where are we avoiding having financial awareness? And therefore, we're always avoiding what we can actually ask for with our finances and with our revenue and with our income. And everywhere we choose avoidance over awareness with our finances, let's destroy and uncreate that. Right and wrong, good and bad, POC and POD, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. And just start, guys. Like the other thing with me, and that's why I chose to do, a sort of a set time every week. And sometimes I do it, sometimes I miss a week, sometimes I do it on a different day. Sometimes I have a glass of wine and look at it. It's not this thing of making it rigid and strict, but it's this place where it will pull your head right out of the sand. It will make you come face to face with what's going on. Like, how many of you right now could say, if I said to you, exactly how much money have you got, you know, in all of your bank accounts and wherever it's placed? And how many of you, if I said, how much money did you make in the last month, know exactly how much that is? And how many of you, if I said, how much does it cost for you to live your life for 1 month, would know what that is? So, my pleasure. And it is like, Estelle, that's so bang on. Pragmatic ideas when it comes to money for me is half of the adventure, I want to say. The other half is very much playing with the magic. Things like the How to Become Money workbook and the advanced How to Become Money workbook. And the really like delving into your ask and being a little extravagant and wild with what you're willing to ask for. But for me, I can't ask for something if I don't have clarity on that, like on the actual, the meat of it all, like what's really going on. So, yeah. So I wanted to come on and really probably, and I guess I'm a pretty pragmatic type of person as well. And I just wanted to share those tools with you guys of what I've gone through financially. And also, I mean, there's so much to it too. And I would say, don't let it overwhelm you. Like the minute you go to overwhelm, just start to expand out and just do a little bit at a time and chip away at it. And just be like, okay, if I could, okay, so right now I haven't done, like, if you're in your world, you're like, oh my God, I haven't looked at my finances. I've never done what she's talking about, or it's been 6 months. Like, what if you either put aside half a day or maybe 1 hour a day for the next week? And I can guarantee you, if you did an hour a day for a week, you would have it sorted, or if not, you would have made a good chunk into sorting out, where you're at financially. So the thing I found is you've just got to start. You've just got to start somewhere and not let yourself get caught up in too much detail. Like you can get to that point where you're trying to balance every single cent. Hire yourself a bookkeeper. So I have an amazing bookkeeper that works for me. She balances out my accounting software every week or 2 weeks for me. I have an accountant that puts through like my tax and does more the high end sort of stuff. And knowing I have those people in my business and supporting me is a huge contribution as well. But it doesn't negate, it doesn't take away from me wanting to also know for myself where I'm at. And so I can play with the magic and the miracle and the mystery of what asking the universe around this sort of stuff is and can be. I'm just going to look at the questions quickly. Yeah, cool, awesome. So Nancy uses an Excel spreadsheet. Extravagant and wild, yes. So, and the other cool thing as well that, okay, so a couple of like to tell a little bit of story type stuff, which I know also kind of helps with this. Like I remember when Brendan many years ago was, you know, talking to Gary and he's like, I've got no money, I'm always broke, I've got no money. And Gary's like, well, how much money did you make last month? And Brendan's like, I don't know, maybe $3,000 or something. And Gary's like, right, hang up the phone, go and sit down, and I want you to calculate every cent that you made, that you generated last month, and come back to me. And so Brendan did this and went and sat down and looked at all the places where he was paid cash or he was paid into his account or for the different jobs that he was doing, and was blown away when he saw that he made $10,000 that month. And you know, he spent the $10,000 as well. So that was kind of like the next part of looking at things. But to be aware of the fact, holy shit, like I actually created 3.5 times more than I thought I had in the last month. So that was something, a big tipping point in his financial reality as well. There was something else I was going to say around telling you guys that sort of story, but no, train has totally left the station. No, I can't remember. I'm sorry. And I think for me, like hearing people talk about that sort of stuff and knowing, I mean, Simone Milasas has been such a huge inspiration in my life with this sort of stuff. And for so many years, I did kind of like shirk my responsibility with my finances, being like, well, it's money. As long as I've got enough there to pay the bills and blah, 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 then that's all that's required, right? Which is fine. Like the other thing is, there's not really anything wrong here. So everywhere we've made money like the big scary monster in the world, or the thing that is to always be, you know, avoided or put to the bottom of the list. Let's destroy and uncreate that. Right and wrong, good and bad, POC and POD, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. And what if like money could be everything? Like it could be the energy that was infused throughout your whole life and throughout your day and everything that you were doing. And for me, the more I commit to having awareness of my finances, the more they grow. It's like having like a puppy, right? Like I just got a puppy, so the analogy is there. I'll pick her up in a minute and show you guys because basically she's the cutest thing ever. Like if you get a puppy, right, and you kind of like leave it in the yard and forget about it, but you feed it and you give it water and you know it's got places to go to the toilet, you throw it some toys every now and again. I mean, the dog's going to survive. It's going to, you know, maybe not be totally happy. And maybe when you go to pat it, it jumps all over you and it humps your leg and it slobbers all over your face. But if you get a puppy and you invest time into it, training it, you know, which is everything I'm learning with her, like, how can I do this differently? How can I make it so her life is expansive and together we expand each other's worlds? Like, think of your money like that as well. If you're willing to every day tend to it in a way, like ask it what it requires. And me, for her, like I got her and sort of had one idea, and then through asking questions and being willing to be aware of her requirements, it changes. And then something will come up and I'll ask a question. Like, it's been a little bit hard to toilet train her. So I've been like, okay, so let me look at this and ask some questions around that. So then I try a different approach and a different method. But it's only through like having that curiosity with her and not being like, this is how it is. And for me, money is very much the same as that. Like when I have that curiosity with it, it tends to tell me a lot. And it tends to grow a lot as well. It's almost like it likes to be included. It likes to be taken care of and it likes to be nurtured. And this having like the spreadsheet and the awareness of what's going on, for me, that creates that. It creates the nurturing of my finances in a way. So now, oh, she's disappeared. Frankie, she ran away. I can't show you the puppy. So do you guys have any other questions about any of this? Anything where you guys want to know more about, you know, and for CF training, I know a lot comes up because there's a lot that's involved in becoming a certified facilitator. But what if like that was, so when you're doing, you know, what it costs to live my life, what if part of that was also the access classes you want to do? So what if every month you knew that you like to have $1,000, $1,500, $2,000 more allocated to access classes and telecalls? And what if that was part of that, you know, this is what it costs to live my life, and it was also part of your ask, and you were willing to just have that as part of it and just see what shows up as well. I mean, I'm giving you all of this information, and until you go out and play with it and sort of apply some of it, you're not going to know. Like, it's like what Gary says, what's the worst that could happen? Like, what if you were like, okay, for 3 months, I'm going to be really aware of my finances. I'm going to set myself up a doc. I'm going to keep track of my income, you know, every month or two, list what it costs to live my life and be present and congruent with what I'm asking for, and just see what shows up. And then tell each other, like maybe in the group as well, like you could share some ideas about when you've asked for something in your finances, what that's contributed and how it's changed for you as well. Thank you, Nancy. Yeah, and there's so many tools, and that's why I think we're having a month long of these. So please, guys, tune in and share ideas with each other. Sorry, my Telegram's going off. Maybe you can't hear it though. That would be good. Because like what Nancy just said, she appreciates my tools and ideas, and I appreciate everyone else's. So what if like this place where if you find something that works for you, that you share it as well? And being a certified facilitator of access consciousness, I mean, there was a conversation that went on the show, on class my last night, early this morning, where Dane talked about when he first came to Access and having no money, basically. His first COP level 2 and 3 back then, where he basically packed a whole loaf of this sprouted wheat bread, you know, painted with peanut butter and jelly, and made a loaf of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. And he had like all this food that he brought with him for the 4 or 5 days of doing this class, because he couldn't afford to buy food. Like, he scraped together the money for the class and that was his food. And then they went on to talk about like how, like, it was a really cool conversation and quite a vulnerable place. You know, it was really wonderful, and talked about how he showed up, and even though he had no money, he was offering Gary gas money, like petrol money, because Gary was driving them to the class or around during the day. And you know, Dane was like the poorest person in the group, and he was the only person that actually offered Gary money as well for petrol and things like that. So like, where do we limit our sphere, like our scope, and what we think we can contribute to the world based on our finances? And where do we cut ourselves short with just how much of a gift we are because we don't have, you know, 10, 20, 50, 100, $200,000 in our bank account? And everywhere that you guys are worth way more than whatever amount of money you think you need to have to be worth what you're worth, let's destroy and uncreate that as well. Right and wrong, good and bad, POC and POD, all 9 shorts, boys and beyonds. So on February, it looked very close to being a CF. Now it seems impossible. So what seems impossible, Susanna? Is it because like is it a money thing or is it something else? Yeah. Cool. And guys, please, like, do the practical stuff and the pragmatic stuff and do the magic. and ask questions and ask for the universe to contribute to you. And be willing to just recognize that a lot of the time, what we think is our reality with finances and what we think is our reality with money is not actually ours. So maybe that's another cool question you could ask as well. Like, what is my financial reality? And, you could say, where do I find it? How do I create it? How do I actualize it? Like, whatever. I would probably say, what is my financial reality? And what is my financial reality? And what is my financial reality? And who must I be to actualize it? Something like that, where it's like, because to create something, you've just got to ask. So if your ask is to create more money and it's congruent with where you're going, now it's time to actualize. So from creation comes actualization. And that's when you do need to, get off your bum and do some stuff. But the cool thing about this sort of stuff is if you're asking and you're congruent with your ask, the universe wants to play with you. It wants to provide. It wants to have you there in this awesome party of consciousness. So, yes, pragmatic plus magic equals so much possibilities. I love it. Cool. And maybe start writing some stuff down, and I'll stop soon because I'll just keep giving you guys so many tools, and it's like, I get excited talking about money, apparently. Okay, cool. So Susanna said new taxes to buy stuff abroad and limited to only $200 a month, plus not getting enough money to live because of COVID. Okay, so what if you were willing to look at, okay, so CF might not happen until next year now, but what can I start creating between now and then to actualize that? And put it on your spreadsheet. Look at, okay, so these are the classes I need, the calls and that for my prereqs, and this is how much it costs. This is how much the class costs. If my aim, if my ask, if my target is to be at Noosa in February or the Europe Rome one in March, or however we end up setting it up next year, because it may be a little bit different, like looking at it practically, what do you need to actualize between now and then to make that a possibility? So yeah. And what money can you start making locally then? And how can you look at that a little bit differently? Cool. Oh, look, who's back? Do you want to come and say hello? Yeah, come and say hello to everyone. And so this is my puppy. Her name is Frankie. She just turned 10 weeks. Hang on, what day is it today? Was she 10 weeks or 11 weeks? Anyway, she's either 10 weeks or 11 weeks. And she's just the most adorable little thing, and she contributes a lot to me. Don't you? Yes. Did you say hello to everyone? You say hello. Yeah, but even her, she costs money. So she's on my what it costs to live my life list, because she's not cheap. I went shopping yesterday, I think, and spent another, I don't know, $300 on her, just feeding her and buying her toys. So but she's such a contribution. And with everything in your life, guys, what if you asked it to contribute financially to you? So the things that you don't even think can contribute financially to you because you actually spend money on them, things like your car, like your animals, like your children, like, and you don't have to ask it out loud. With your kids, you definitely can. They're very good with that sort of stuff. But just to ask, hey, would you contribute to me financially? You're right. She is very beautiful. She is very beautiful. Cool. All right, guys. Well, that was 30 minutes pretty much on the dot. So I might go and pass out for a couple of hours, get a little bit of sleep before we start day 4 of certified facilitator training. Please, if you're watching this after the fact, ask any questions in the chat and I'll check back in. You can send me a private message, and keep watching. There's all these brilliant facilitators doing these lives, and I'm so grateful to be part of Access Consciousness, to be part of being a certified facilitator, and part of your guys' journey as well. So thank you so much. Good day, good evening, good morning, wherever you are in the world. And I look forward to actually seeing some of you in person very soon, hopefully. And in the meantime, I'm so grateful to connect with you guys from everywhere in the world. Bye, everyone.